Hey, good morning, my theory friends. So, I'm going to walk you through the homework assignment a little bit for today so that you kind of understand how it works dealing with modulation. And this is actually really easy, so don't be too worried. I know it looks a little scary, but it's quite simple. So, if you read the things that I wanted you to go over, you pretty well already have a good idea of how this works, but we'll talk about it together. So, here's your homework assignment and asks you to go through for a given key and list the 5 closely related keys. Now, the way the assignment that I told you to read tells you to do this is to go 1 key flatter and 1 key sharper. So for C minor has 3 flats. So you would write down the key that has 2 flats, the key that has 4 flats, right? So that's going 1 to the left on the circle of fifths, and then 1 to the right, or counterclockwise and clockwise, and write down both of those major keys, right? So the one that has 2 flats, major key, I won't tell you which one that is, you can look it up. The one that has 4 flats, major key, right? And then their relatives. So C minor has a relative major, it's E flat major. So you would write down its relative major, and then you would write down the relative minors for the other 2 keys. I'll just do it. Let's just do it. Okay, so C minor has 3 flats. So what is the major key that has 2 flats? Let's do it that way first. So 2 flats major key is B flat. I'm writing with a mouse, so it's not going to be great. Okay, so C minor again has 3 flats. So now what's the major key with 4 flats? Well, that's A flat major. Okay. Now, what is the relative major of C minor? That's E flat. Okay, now we need to go through and do the relative minors of these 2. So the relative minor of the key with 2 flats, B flat, is G minor. Actually, I guess I should write that lowercase. Okay, G minor. Boop. And the relative minor of the key with 4 flats, so A flat major is 4 flats. The relative minor is F minor. And that's how you do this. Now, there's a way easier way. You could just look at the circle of fifths and say, cool, where's C minor? There it is. What's the 2 keys counterclockwise, and what's the 2 keys clockwise, and then what's the relative major? Boom, 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 and you get all these same answers. It doesn't matter, by the way, in what order you list them. Just write them down. Doesn't matter at all. All you're trying to do here is to write down the keys that are the most common for C minor to modulate to, right? So if you happen to have a song that's in C minor, which keys are the most common and the easiest ones to modulate to? And if you're in C minor, the easiest keys to switch to are B flat major, A flat major, E flat major, G minor, and F minor. That's it for this first part. That's all you got to do. So that's really simple. Okay, the second section looks a little scarier, but it's really, really not. So if you read through this, you kind of understand that this moment right here with this funny looking bracket is what's called a pivot chord. And if you remember our conversation that we've had a few times now about common tones, we talked about that a long time ago when we talked about other kind of how you would do voice leading between 2 different chords. This is a really similar idea. And the concept here is that there's going to be a key that exists, there's going to be a chord that exists in 2 different keys simultaneously. So in this particular instance, we are going to have a chord that exists as the 6th chord in D minor and as the 2 chord in some other key. And that's what we're going to find out. So let's go through this, and then I'll kind of explain what's going on. So this is nice and simple. We're in D major. We need a 1 chord. Great, it's D. The 5 chord in D major is A. The 1 chord in D major is D. All right, the 6th chord in D minor is B minor, and I'll write that in lowercase to indicate that it's minor. Okay, now this is where we have to get our pivot chord thing to work. So, here's the question. In what key is B minor the 2 chord? So I'll give you a second to think about that. In what key is B minor the 2 chord? And if you said A major, you're correct, because it is A major. Well, how did I figure that out? Okay, so B minor is a minor key, obviously, and 2 chords are supposed to be minor. So I just go and say, okay, if B is the 2 chord, what's the 1 chord? I'll go back 1 set diatonically to be in A. So A major has 3 sharps, and B minor would exist in that key. B, D, F sharp would be the 2 chord in A major. This is the hardest part of this, but even once you get good at it, it's really, really not hard. Because the other thing you can realize is that, wait a second. If we're in D major and we just got done talking about closely related keys, there's really only 5 options that this is going to be if it's closely related. The key that has one more sharp, the key that has 1 less sharp than D, and then their relative majors and minors. And if you'll notice, D and A are closely related using this exact same concept that we had up here. D has 2 sharps, A has 3 sharps. Ta-da, it works, and it's really not that hard. So if you're stuck on this, go through the 5 other closely related keys until you can kind of figure out which one works. Now we're going to go through and do the rest of this Roman numeral analyzation in A major. So they want you to put a 1-6, which who cares? We can just write here. I guess we can do this in lead sheet. So we'll do A over C sharp, right? Because C sharp is the 3rd of that chord. That would make that a 1-6. A 2-6 chord, well, that's going to be the same here. It's a B minor over D. A 1-6-4, oh boy. So now we've got an A over E, right? 5-7, look at this cadential 6-4 pattern here. A 5-7, which would be E7, E major minor 7, boop, and then a 1 chord A. So notice that we started in the key of D, and now we have pivoted right here into the key of A major. So we modulated into this key. So we start in a sound, and then we end in a different sound. And this, especially using this method, is really, really smooth. This is not like the direct modulations that we listened to yesterday. The Jacob's Ladder, you just yoink, you just go straight up a major key or straight up a step. This doesn't work like that at all. You'll notice that this key change happens, but it's much more subtle and it's a lot smoother sounding. It's not meant to be an abrupt, like, oh my God, here we go, we're changing keys. This pivot chord modulation, which is the technical term for this, will sound a lot smoother and it'll be a lot easier to listen to. So that's the 2 examples for your homework today. Hopefully you read through all the other stuff and you can get the rest of this homework done very, very easily. So just as a reminder then, you've got this, and you also need to have turned in your pep band, your final pep band arrangement. It is the actual last day for it, so please make sure you get that stuff into me. So this should be a really fast and easy day for you. Do the reading, do the rest of this, get in that pep band thing, and that's it, my friends. So have a good day, and I hope I'll see you Monday. We're supposed to get another round of snow on Monday, so who knows? All right, well, be safe out there. If you drive, please drive very slowly. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.